All right, what is up, you guys? So we are here with another agent interview, and with me today we've got Tim Knox, which we're going to kind of walk through his story, his first 30 days as in real estate, and some of the challenges that he went through, the success that he's having, more importantly. And so, number one, Tim, I've got to again thank you for taking the time out of obviously your schedule, because we're all trying to make it happen and take listings every week. And so the fact that you have taken time out of your week to pour into other real estate agents means a ton. So thanks for being here.
Hey man, happy to do it. You are, I just admire you so much in everything you're doing, and anything I can do to help further the cause. And, they say rising tide makes all ships rise. So that's what I'm trying to do.
That's great. No, that's awesome, man. And so again, thank you so much. So,
Sure.
We're going to get into kind of what it was like for the first 30 days here in just a second. But really quickly, what did you do before you got into real estate, and why in the world did you get into real estate?
You know what? That's a really good question. I have a really diverse background. I was a serial entrepreneur for most of my career. I was started multiple businesses. The first one in the mid 90s was a graphic design company, which morphed into an internet company, which morphed into a software company. And I did that for many years. Ended up selling that business, was going to retire and realized I'm not good at retirement. So I went into retail. I went in the retail gun business for a number of years and had multiple stores. And that was an experience. If you ever want to be talked out of going into retail, just let me know and I'll talk you out of it. But ended up selling that business. And along the way, I'd always been a writer and a coach, and I did a lot of social media, a lot of YouTube. I've done some television. So I started a little media company working primarily with authors, helping them market their books and that sort of thing. And did that for about 4 years and just kind of got tired of it. And so my daughter, who was in real estate, she flipped her first house when she was a senior in high school. And now, many years later, she's flipped a lot of houses. She got her license about 4 years ago and said, "Dad, if you're not doing anything, you've always dabbled in real estate. Why don't you come and work with me at the company?" And so that's what I did. I'd always dabbled. I was an investor. I helped her flip a lot of houses, but I never worked on that side of the table. And so my goal was not really to become a real estate agent, Brandon. My goal was to start a real estate business, which is how I approach everything from a business mindset. So, just to start out, I got my license. I joined her team at Keller Williams, and I just kind of bring a business mentality to it. And I think that's one of the reasons, along with, folks like you and Ricky Caruth in my corner, that I've managed to do pretty well quickly, because I did bring that entrepreneurial mindset. And it's gone good. And you know what? I had no idea how much hard work this was. There's much more to it than just showing houses and cashing checks, man.
Isn't that funny? I mean, so many people, before they get into the business with the mindset that it is easy, that,
anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it. These agents are making all this money, and it's all this stuff that they see on TV. People think they passed their exam and there's a Ferrari waiting outside. And it's just not the case. I mean, that's what this interview is going to be all about. And so walk us through how long you've actually been doing it now.
I have been licensed about 6 weeks. I have really been active, really about 4 weeks. Yeah. 4 or 5 weeks.
So what's interesting about that is I'm going to get into some of your results here in just a second,
Sure.
that are absolutely incredible. I mean, so many people are getting into this business, Tim, as you know, because they think it's simple, because they think it's sexy, because they think it's something that it's not. And quickly, the first 30, 45 days, they say, wow, this is not what I thought. But not you. You actually got right into this business. And so walk everybody through, what are the results you had in your first 30 days as a real estate agent?
In the first 30 days, I have written 3 contracts. I sold two fourplexes and a small single family. And in the last week and a half, I've gotten 3 listings, and I've got 2 more I believe I'm going to get next week.
Wow.
So I kind of hit the ground running, Brandon.
Yeah, you did. And so the reason why I wanted to interview you was to share with the audience how you did that. So
Okay.
many people, in the groups that you and I are part of, they're almost in disbelief. They keep asking you questions. Tim,
Yeah.
how did you do that? They're looking for some type of magic pill in your office. They're looking for some magic potion under your chair. And there's none of that, is there? None of that exists, is it?
You know what? I worked my ass off. I mean, I really, really have, I did so much research and reading and business planning before I ever started this venture that by the time I got around to actually, you know, doing the business, I was pretty well versed about the business. And that goes back to what I mentioned earlier about the entrepreneurial mindset. You know, I'm not in this just to be a real estate agent. I'm in this to build a real estate business. This is a venture to me.
Sure.
And, I knew from past experience on starting companies from scratch, man, you don't just hang out a shingle and wait for people to come. I mean, I was lining up people to show properties to before I got my license.
Hmm.
And I got to be honest with you, I know realtors who are in the class that I was in, who are still kind of spinning their wheels and haven't done anything. They haven't held an open house. They haven't made a phone call, and they've got all kinds of excuses.
Yep.
And I really feel for them because they're going to excuse themselves, I think, out of the business. I mean, I think that's why, entrepreneurship as a whole and real estate especially has such a high failure rate. And I think it's because people kind of go in with blinders and they don't really know everything they have to do to make it work, or they're not willing to do it.
Well, I think what you said, and I totally agree with you. I think what you said a minute ago is exactly right. Meaning, they come into the business with a practitioner's mindset, not a
Exactly.
not a business owner's mindset. They say, "I want to be a real estate agent." Being a real estate agent is a very small piece of what it is that we actually do on a daily basis. You
Mhm.
have to be a marketer. You have to be a salesperson. You have to be a prospector. You have to be all these different hats we wear before you're actually a practitioner of real estate. And so walk us through kind of what your focus has been for the first 30 days. How did you actually do this? Because I think these interviews, there's a lot of them out there, and I really want to get tactical. What are some of the things that you focused on early on that you said, listen, I've done all this research, which I think is amazing because most people don't. And what are some of the things that you focused on early on that have, been responsible for you getting these type of results?
You know what? It comes down to one word. I was proactive. I mean, a couple of my deals have been for sale by owners. One of them was phone prospecting, following exactly what you teach. My very first deal was a for sale by owner that I drove by. And man,
Sure.
I'll tell you what, I drive the neighborhoods now and I take pictures of for sale by owner signs and I call them immediately and I give them the same pitch that you teach. And it was kind of funny. The only difference about that deal was rather than cold calling over the phone, I cold call from in front of the house looking at a yard sign.
Sure.
So, everything that I have done has been very proactive. When you're an entrepreneur, you don't wait for things to happen. You understand you have to make them happen. So what I did was I mentioned earlier that I had some friends that had told me that they were in the market for houses. I started lining them up to show them houses. I got my e-key at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was using that sucker to show houses at 2 o'clock.
Oh,
I
I
mean,
love
I literally went from getting my board of realtors stuff to picking them up and saying, all right, come on, let's go look. I think the big thing, and this is one reason that, and I don't want to blow smoke up your skirt, but you've been such a good influence on me, is I am not afraid to pick up the phone. And now I know what to say. And I think the other thing is, Brandon, it's a shift in mindset. Because I mentioned all of the research that I checked out every coach that was out there, brother. I mean, I looked at all the fairies, all the other guys, and I looked at the things that they were teaching, and I thought to myself, you know what? When someone calls me up and uses a canned script like that to try to twist my arm, it just pisses me off.
That's right.
I'm not going to do that. And that's why, I mentioned, Ricky Caruth, who does the circle prospecting, who and then your tactics. When I saw that, I'm like, you know what, that will work. And so I immediately put that into play, and that really is it. I am just proactive. I am always looking. I do my phone calls every morning. I've got Red X, I do that. And I also work the social media like crazy. But I always come at it from your teaching, where I'm not here to make you sign a contract. I'm here just to build a relationship with you. We'll do business down the road. And that's the thing I think that's made the biggest difference for me. For example, I just got a listing, a $259,000 home that was the very first FSBO I called after joining your coaching. And I remember that call very well because the wife was very nice. She had already moved. The husband was still living in the house. And so, I did exactly what you teach us to do. And so I went out that afternoon to meet the husband at the house, and he was just an asshole. Yeah. I mean, he was, God love him. His family had moved away. He was living in the house. The only furniture he had was a bed. The house had been on the market for like 6 months, and he really didn't want anything to do with a realtor. And so, man, I just soft-played him. I'm like, look, brother, I'm not here to sit you down and throw a presentation on you. I'm just here to look at the house so I can help you sell it. And, he's like, well, I got 5 other realtors. I got this and that. And I gave him my card, wished him well. And I started emailing him and his wife every week. Now, I did follow up with the gift card. I sent him an email that basically outlined everything that I do that makes me different. Yep. And 2 weeks later, he called me just as nice as he could be and said, Tim, we're really impressed with what, just the communication so far. We want you to sell our house.
Wow.
And I'm like, thank you, Brandon.
well,
so it worked out really well. But proactive, just, man, you can't sit back and wait for it to come.
Yeah, you got to play offense. You can't just sit back.
Yeah.
So you just said so many valuable things. I'm hoping that people that are going to be watching this are taking notes because you're right. I mean, some of the things that you just mentioned, a lot of the older tactics that have been trained and coached, they just aren't as effective. I'll just say that. And right. I was a part of a lot of those programs myself. And, growing up in the industry with a lot of that stuff, it just doesn't work. And so when you come from the approach of contribution, the consumer is their ears perk a little bit, right? Because they're so used to being sold to. And what I talk about, and I don't know, do you guys have malls in your area with those kiosks in the middle of the lanes as you walk through the malls?
We do, yeah.
So it's just like that. What I teach people is when you walk through the mall and those kiosks, what do we do every time? We don't want to make eye contact, do we?
Right. Yeah.
Right? We try to walk down the mall like this, and it's the same thing being taught in the real estate industry, and it's just putting people in resistance, and they just want nothing to do with it. Right. And so when you come from the approach that you're referencing, it puts us in a position to actually build that relationship. I love that.
Yeah. Well, I think it Brandon, it goes back to the old treat people like you want to be treated.
That's it.
Now, because my background in business, I mean, I knew a lot about sales. I did years and years of sales training. And, I can always spot when someone's using a script or giving me an angle or what have you. And, those things are great. Rob St. John, who's in our group, Rob does such a great job.
Yeah, he does.
Just vocalizing those scripts. You don't know he's using a script.
Not at all.
But how many times do you get a call? Well, let me ask you this, or there's a video on YouTube that this guy, he's doing a scripted pitch. And I swear to God, he uses the phrase, well, I'm just curious, like 150 times in 5 minutes. I'm just curious. How long are you going to try to sell it yourself? I'm just curious. And I'm like, don't be so damn canned, because people are smarter than that. And I really think if you come from a place of friendship and helpfulness, that's what comes up. And 2 weeks later, this guy who was a rude butthole to me calls me up, and now he's my best friend, and I listed his house.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think you're right. I think people are really looking for authenticity. Mm-hmm. And in real estate, it's so rare. It's so rare that when they come across it, they get so attracted to it. And that's kind of what we're trying to teach the real estate agent community. And it's really hard because I think and I'm not going to go down too deep of a rabbit hole here, but I think people are completely addicted and attached to the outcome. And that's why they're just trying to get that listing
Right.
today. They don't understand that if they do the opposite of that, they'll have plenty of listings.
Yeah. Oh, I have people at the office, and I'm with Keller Williams, and the ones that came through the class that I did and got the license at the same time, and they're like, what are you doing?
Yep.
And I tell them, and they're like, well, wow, I didn't really think of that.
Right, right.
And that's a sad truth, is a lot of the big organizations do not provide any kind of what I call innovative training, which is what I think you do, because it's innovative. It goes against what has been taught and is still being taught, by a lot of coaches and by a lot of companies.
Yeah.
And, these guys are on the phones every day for 2 or 3 hours. They're stumbling through the scripts, and they're not getting appointments, and they don't understand why. And I think, Brandon, I think that's what drives so many people out of the business.
Yeah. And
They try to do that sort of thing, and it's just uncomfortable, and it just gets worse.
Yep. No, I totally agree. And that's why, Tim, I never told you this before, but that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Mm.
Is it got to the point where these big organizations that I was part of, it's not the agent's fault that are failing out of this business. Our
Right.
industry is failing these realtors. And so there, people like Ricky and myself that see things from a philosophical, we see things, we're in alignment. Agents need help, and they're not getting it from the brokerages.
Boy, man, you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, if you rely on your broker to train you, and I got to tell you, a lot of these brokers, they're not even in touch with with reality.
Nope.
I mean, you and I are very familiar with things like RedX, Mojo, Cole Research. I bring up those things at the office, and they all sit around and look at me like,
what's that?
Is that French you're speaking? When you've got the person in charge of productivity training doesn't know what RedX is.
Scary.
You've got to go elsewhere to get the training.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So what are your goals as you start to progress through where you're at today? And I think the end goal is building a real estate business. What do you see over the next 12 months? What's the focus and the goal for you?
My goal is to build a business out of this. I think because I'm an old entrepreneur, I approach everything, as I said, as a business venture. So I'm not in this just to become a real estate agent working at some broker. I'm in it to build a real estate venture that really encompasses a lot of different things. Now, of course, one of those things will be buying and selling homes, but there's also the commercial side of things. There's the property management side of things. There's, I can build a team. What I see in, down the road, maybe 5 years, is a company that kind of encompasses all of that. I work with a lot of investors. I manage a mastermind for a group of local rich guys, and they're all looking at ways to invest. So I think that'll be a part of it. But the reason I'm doing what I'm doing is I believe you have to learn how to walk before you run. And what I'm doing here is learning how to buy and sell houses.
Sure.
And I think I have to know how to do it before I can expand and grow. And so I think over the next 12 months, my goal is I want to list at least 2 to 3 a month. And I'm hoping that's a modest goal. But again, I'm on the lookout for my investor buddies for commercial property. And I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. The listings to me is where the fun is. And I'm going to focus on the FSBOs, just like we were talking earlier. I'm not going to call expireds. I'm not going to beat that bush with everybody else. But, you look at in the course of a month, 2 of my deals have been FSBOs. To me, that says, that's kind of where you ought to spend your time. And so that's what I'm going to do. I mean, I've got all the marketing materials that you provide us. I've got all that customized. I'm ready to really hit the ground running, because I don't think there's anyone here really concentrating on FSBOs, because they're too busy doing the things that, the brokers teach them to do with expireds and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
So,
no, that's super inspiring. I mean, everything that you're talking about right now, it seems like I'm having a conversation with someone who's been in the business for decades. And
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to do this, because you
Yep.
inspire me. You inspire me as
Oh, thank you.
a brand new agent. Now, of course, you've got a lot of business experience, which really
I do.
helps you,
Yep.
that a lot of people don't have. But at the same time, you just take an action. And for sale by owners, the reason why I love them so much, to your point, is it's the fastest, easiest way to get listings, which is what we all want.
Yep.
Um, and so what advice would you give a brand new agent that was just like you 5 or 6 weeks ago? What advice would you give them as to how to have some results like you're having?
I do have an advantage because of my business background, but actually, when I went into this, I didn't know how real estate from this side of the table works that much. I had been, again, an investor and a flipper and that sort of thing, but from the agent standpoint, um, excuse me, I really started about where everyone else did. I think the difference between me and everybody else is I take the time to really learn what I'm doing. I don't just jump out there. And by that, I mean, the business processes side of the thing, all the technical stuff that we have to work with. But more than anything, man, it's just doing it. It's just, having the cojones to get on the phone and make phone calls. And to me, calling FSBOs is so easy.
Yeah.
There's no pressure. I'm not calling to sell you anything, brother. I'm calling to help you sell your house, and to me, that is so much more, it's so much easier to do than trying to use all these scripts to wrangle someone into a listing appointment. So I think the bottom line is you learn and you find a good coach. And again, I got to pat you on the back, whether you like it or not. I know you're a very humble guy, but let me brag on you for a minute here. I looked at, again, multiple coaches, and I looked at multiple things that people claimed were working. And again, you and Ricky bubble to the top, and you guys, you're FSBOs, Ricky's the circle prospecting. I've had success doing both. I got a listing circle prospecting, but I think the thing is you've got to pick who you listen to, because especially if you go to YouTube, there are some guys on YouTube dispensing real estate advice, man. You don't need to listen to some of these guys. I'm not going to mention any names. You can figure them out.
Pretty
But
scary.
yeah, I think the big thing is find a coach that you like and trust, but a coach that has provable results. I can look at Brandon and say, Brandon, show me what you've done. And boy, he can show me what he's done. There's a lot of coaches out there that hadn't sold a piece of property in 30 years.
100%.
I don't want to listen to those guys. So I think that's the biggest thing is do your homework, really educate yourself, and in my mind, pick something that works, FSBOs, circle, whatever, pick something that works, really focus in on that and get really good at it.
Yeah, I love it.
And that's the thing, man. I drive, I love driving down the road. I see a for sale by owner sign. I'm calling that fella right there and giving him the spiel. And if he'll let me in at that moment, I'll walk in and talk to him. Don't be bashful. Just come at it from a place of heart. You are really there to serve that person, not there to pick their pockets. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love what you said. The learning's in the doing. Every agent wants to overthink everything. And, if you know what to say, and to your point, you're getting good advice. Most agents see a for sale by owner sign and they go running the opposite way. Well, not if we have the approach that we have, because we just want to help. And the consumers can feel that. They can really feel it. And so, no, I really, really love what you're doing. It's super inspiring. People are going to watch this, Tim, and say, wow, I mean, I want to be like him. And they're going to reach out to you. They're going to want advice. So what's the best way for someone to reach out if they are looking to get some advice?
You know what? I'm typically all over Facebook. I'm in Brandon's group. If you go to Facebook and just type in Tim Knox, I usually pop up. I do have YouTube channels. I haven't done a lot in real estate, although I do video walkthrough tours. So my YouTube real estate channel is a little sparse. But my background, again, was in entrepreneurial coaching and in publishing. So I've got a pretty extensive YouTube channel there. But you can also email me, timknox@kw.com. I joined Keller Williams just to get that email address.
That's an easy one. It's an easy one. Well, Tim, again, I can't thank you enough. I mean, this interview, however long it was, is going to help so many people, inspire so many people to say, you know what, he did it. I can do this. And that's why we do these. And so thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Any last words of encouragement?
Hey, you know what? It's said over and over, but if I can do it, you know, I think the key is a lot of people make things harder than they really have to be.
That's right.
This is not hard. If you've got half a brain and you can talk on the phone, you know, you can have pretty good success in this. You're going to be smarter than a lot of realtors.
That's right. That's right. So again, Tim, thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll see more success coming from you very, very, very soon.
I hope so. Hey, I appreciate everything you do, man.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.